Bigos, everyone. I hope you're well. We are nearly there at 50, the milestone 50 podcast. But, thank you to everyone once again for all the support and love and encouragement and messages and sharing and liking and posting. It's been fantastic. It's a lot of love and I appreciate it. And we're on our way from here, from Melbourne, up to the north of Queensland. Can I please introduce to you Shihan Wayne Hinschen from the Whitsundays, from the sunny Whitsundays in Queensland. Shihan, thank you so much for your time. How are you?
Oh, very well, Patrick. Very well. Thank you. Thank you for having me on. I've been watching your podcast, and I think
awesome.
What a great idea. It really does give the guys to know where the older guys like myself, I'm in my 60s now, came from, and certainly body's feeling it these days. But it's great.
Oh, well, good on you. Thank you for that. I appreciate it. And again, thanks for your time, because we've been in contact and you've been very busy, so how things going where you are, and I guess give the listeners a bit of an idea of what you do outside, off the mat as such.
Yeah, look, I'm in the sugar industry up here. Proserpine, where I come from, is a very tiny country town. So it's about 20 k's sort of inland from Early Beach, Cannon Vale, where the main tourism is now. It's sugarcane, cattle, coffee, that type of stuff.
Yeah.
And my business is a contractor. So I cut between 90 and 100,000 tonne of sugarcane.
Wow. Unbelievable.
I've got to get that off in about 5.5 months, about 23 weeks. So it goes 7 days a week. It doesn't stop. My machine doesn't stop. I employ about 6 people with that. So that's my main income. But in saying that, I've always had my dojos running. I was still able to get there 4 times a week and train. So
your dojos, Shihan, for everyone, where are they?
There's a dojo in Proserpine. That's my main dojo, and the other dojo is run by one of my former students, is Sensei Belinda Woodham. She's at Cannon Vale, and she has a very good little dojo there. And so we have two dojos in the area. We used to have 3, one on Hamilton Island as well. Yeah, so we used to travel over there. It was pretty hard on a Saturday morning to cross the Whitsunday Passage, and sipping coffee to Hamilton Island. But someone had to do it. So
for the listeners, I've got to spend a minute here in giving you some perspective of where Shihan is, and for the Aussies, they all know, and we're all, it is the tourist attraction of one of the most beautiful parts of the world, where the Great Barrier Reef is not far from. So, what a special part of the world. And respectfully, a Melbourne city kid, I'm in the mountains at the minute, but when we head off to that part of the world, and such a special place. So isn't that fascinating?
Oh, look, I remember Early Beach having a couple of little huts, and it was a dirt road there, it was a dirt road, and now it's just exploded. You've got just 5-6 star international resorts, and you've got Hayman Island, where all the famous people come, Tom Cruise and those sort of guys, and they fly in to stay on Hayman Island, and there you go. So
Shihan, great to have you on. Let's start. Let's break the ice. In that part of the world, how did martial arts start into your journey? How did this beautiful thing, get into your life?
I've always been involved with sport. I've always been that type of person. My main sport, coming from a country Queensland town, was rugby league. And so I started as a 6-year-old, and then I played right up until I was 18. Rugby league. And my position was out on the backs for wing the centre, so I always had the speed, that quick twitch, the speed, and so forth. But also in doing that, there was a guy that comes through in town. I can't remember his name. I was about 15, and he started judo.
Okay.
So I started doing those classes, and he was here for he was passing through. He was here for about 12 months. And so I just started doing judo. And I remember we drove down to Mackay. Mackay is approximately 120 kilometres south of Proserpine, and that's where the main Judoka hall was.
I see.
And I was training there, and I remember there was a big petition in this hall, and I sort of stuck my head around it, and you wouldn't believe it, there was Kyokushin written on the wall there.
Right.
And I saw the bags, and of course that was Shihan Trevor Fields.
I see.
And I didn't know Shihan then.
Uh-huh.
And I'm going, oh wow, this is something I would really. And then you wouldn't believe it was 6 months later, a friend of mine called Wayne Quantock, he used to show dogs in the show. He used to show Dobermans, and Trevor Shihan used to show, what's the black and white ones? I forget what the dog is called.
Border Collie or something.
No, or something like that anyway.
Yeah.
And Wayne Quantock spoke to Trevor, said, why don't you come up to Proserpine and start training? I see. And so that's how it started. The first night, Wayne Quantock let me know, and because I was only 16, and I lived approximately 20 kilometres from Proserpine on a farm, on an acreage. And so I took my brother, can you drive me in? He said, oh yeah, okay. And we arrived, and I remember this guy got out this yellow Corona, Toyota Corona, and he had legs like tree stumps. Yeah. And in those days, feels he had hair. He had long hair. Well, he had this big ape hanger moustache,
Oh, wow.
It looked like a bloody bikie, and I've gone, wow.
Yeah, I could imagine.
And so that was my introduction to karate, and believe it or not, there was about 70 people. It must have been the whole population of Proserpine there that night, I think, to come and have a look, Yeah. And that was my first introduction. And from then on, I unless I was injured or something, I was away, I never missed a night of training.
Wow. Yeah. How fascinating. I love hearing the stories of how it started. It just, and more so, it brings a smile to everyone's faces when they're telling me it, and it reminisces a little bit, but also, just talking about Shihan Trevor then, what a man that he would have been in influence as such, like you had said, because you would have been in your, a teenager, I'm assuming you weren't driving. Yeah.
I was 16. I was 16. I did have, I had an apprenticeship as a mechanic, and so I had a special license you could get in those days to drive to work. You only could drive in a certain time, go home a certain time. So that's where I started, and it was just a little Catholic hall. And as I said, Proserpine, it's not a big town. It had a population of only around 5,000 people, and that's about it. And then and Shihan used to drive up every Wednesday from Mackay, and that was 120 kilometres. Yeah, and of course, if you know the Bruce Highway, it's still not much better than it was 20 years or 40 years ago. Right. So, and of course,
Oh, right.
Yeah.
Well, there you go. So I try not to jump too much, because like I was just gesturing to Shihan Wayne, this isn't about, for those, just to be clear, I'm not trying to get your life in 1 hour, but I like, it's more the highlights and the experiences like that. And, so when I jump into certain stages, it's not to speed it up, it's just to acknowledge. And so while you're doing all this, again, you're in your teens, you're 16. So the first thing that came to my mind is, your work, you would have been influenced, because influence meaning I shared it with others. There's not many black belts around in that era, right? And Shihan Trevor would have been the highest rank as such, and so on. So many of you would have been influenced in attaining or working towards that, because that would have been the pinnacle as such.
Exactly right. It was even as I was grading through. Even to look at a green belt, because he used to bring some of his students up who were green and brown belts, and even to look at a green belt then was, oh gosh, if only I could, you look at that, and to get there, and then of course when later on he probably about 12 months later, I'd had 1 or 2 gradings. I think it was in those days, there wasn't 10 Qs. There was only 8 Qs.
Right.
And so your first grading was a blue belt. And so I think I was a 7th Q, sort of in about 12 months time. And in those days, then he used to bring up Brad Madden. Okay, he was younger than me, but he was a Shodan, and people like Brad Hansen and a few of the other guys and so forth. So and they were, you're just in awe of them. Okay. You see these guys move and you just think, gosh, and they just kept, and they were great. They just said, you just got to keep training, just keep doing it, and so as I moved through, I realized that Proserpine had no gym, had nothing, it was a football team and a cricket team. And,
you're right.
And even our football, we had no boots. We used to play everything in bare feet.
Oh my God.
In bare feet, and there was burrs and everything. So we're always feeling that, that toughness and that. And, and of course, it doesn't matter what game you went to, it wasn't a game of football unless it was a blue, a good old blue in the middle of the team, sort of during the day. So I was used to fighting in that,
Oh, really?
So getting plenty of smacks and so forth.
Jesus.
So and, but sort of as I went up, I actually went in 1977. I travelled to Sydney with Shihan. I flew down with some of the guys to watch a tournament because we had no tournaments up here, and the main ones were in Sydney or Melbourne. The cities. There was even nothing in Brisbane in those days. And so I flew down, and I remember the first day was they had the eliminations. I think it was Pitt Street in the YMCA building, and it was just a bare floor. There was no sort of tatami, and everyone was just around this area. And these guys were whacking. As they come to the crowd, they were just getting shoved back in the middle and whack. Yeah. And I'm just going, these guys are crazy.
Yeah. Okay.
Crazy, And then of course the next day was at Sydney Town Hall where they fought it, and so I got to know guys like Peter Wolf and Gary Vickers, Nick Kujic, those guys. They were young and good fighters, and Shihan Trevor, of course, was fighting.
Yes.
And so that's my first sort of seeing of contact, and
and again, I gotta always raise this, that we got to understand the era, the 70s, and appreciate that, moment of I was telling my kids, there was 3 or 4 TV stations back then, right? Let alone, again, and I've said it in many other podcasts, internet, publications, video, there was no such thing. So to reference or to see or to acknowledge was firsthand, right? And to be influenced by it, like you just said then, what I just caught off you was, you're walking into a hall, hundreds of people, it's okay to, crack on, and is it ever, it's full contact,
That's right.
It just wouldn't have been comprehended as such, and such a mystique thing back then as well.
Look, in the early days, certainly I suppose the refereeing has changed to a lot cleaner, and you're allowed to grab and hold a knee and and grapple a little bit, so it was quite rough, I suppose, it was like a street fight, in a lot of ways, and if someone was losing a bit of a fight, you see a few groin kicks go in just to slow the person down, and the guy get don't do that, or a bit of a chewy, but there was never
a bit of a chewy,
and so it was very enlightening to see it, and but it was something that just sort of grabbed me. I thought, this is a great challenge. This is a great challenge.
Yeah, good one.
And there was nothing, as I said, there was nothing up north, especially around Proserpine area, and there was a little bit of boxing, the guys, sort of at someone's house or whatever, like so.
Sure.
And so in 78, was competing in we used to have inter-club tournaments, or we go to other styles and fight their tournaments, accumulate each style to try and get a tournament going.
Sure.
But in 1978, I actually flew to Melbourne.
All right.
And Brad Madden was he was asked to come and do a nunchaku demonstration. Sosai flew out to Melbourne that year.
Right.
And that's been the first time I sort of saw Sosai, and all I can remember was this big man, but his eyes, his piercing black eyes would would look through you, and that's when I made, really, I suppose, I saw it again, and I made up my mind to, okay, training will become serious,
Yeah.
And,
so he also
yeah.
so seeing these types of figures.
Yeah.
Again, you're in a town of 5,000 people, not much,
No.
activity, but then you've come down to the big smoke, as they say in Melbourne.
Yeah.
And then there's some influential figures.
Yeah. And even I can't remember the hall where they had it, but you walk in and, and I remember saying, so this hall is as big as Proserpine. Goodness gracious,
Yeah.
And it was funny that night in the centre of Melbourne, a big complex there, Chuck Norris was out. Okay. And there was a guy called Richard Norton. He was a kickboxer, and Chuck Norris was come out. So I went along to that complex that night, and they did a demo, and of course I remember seeing Chuck Norris at the movies, with Bruce Lee, and of course that was my influence as well a little bit.
Yeah.
And I just gone, okay, and that really even sort of spurred my passion on.
Yeah.
To really go.
Oh, that's great. Isn't that fantastic, listeners? What a side of hearing it from someone that's again not in a major city and not around that many others in other like-minded as such. But so you start to obviously get the itch. You've traveled a little bit here in the state and so on, and then what I jumped to Shodan because I'd love to hear your side of it, because you would have was it something that again you were slowly would have been getting to, going, shit, hold on a second here, and then there would have been others side by side with you,
Look, that's right. There was guys who graded up a little higher than me. They got up to green belt. I was to yellow belt. Uh-huh. And that was my yellow belt is when I in 79, that was my first national tournament in Sydney at the town hall. Right. And Trevor Shihan couldn't come down. That's when he was having some issues, so forth. Yep. And he had stopped coming up to Proserpine. He was still sending his students up. I know Brad Hanson, Michael Young were coming up, and I was going down to Mackay. I actually used to drive down to Mackay on a Friday, stay at Shihan's house, and train down there in Victoria Park and everywhere all weekend with the Mackay guys, just for sparring and getting like so. And then I'd finished my apprenticeship. Nice. And I started working with my father, sort of on the farm and so forth. Yes. And my fitness really kicked up because we used to start at 5 o'clock in the morning. And I thought, instead of going with my father driving to work, I used to put my sand shoes on and I used to run 10 Ks to work. Unreal. And because that was in the sugar industry, in those days, nothing was as mechanical as it is now, or automotive. Everything's automotive now. These days you had to, on an open air tractor early in the morning, freezing cold, and you had to push these empty bins. So these empty bins weighed about 1.5 tons. You had to put them up on a trailer, and then so I thought, well, there's my training. Yeah, there it is. Yeah, and then in the afternoon, the full bins would weigh 4 tons. Whoa! So I used to put what they call a chock, and I used to get there and try and roll a bin that's 4 ton, at least 10 meters, to start building my legs and then back, so. And then I'd don on my sand shoes and run 10 kilometers home. Gotcha. And, you did it almost every day? Every day. And I thought, And I saw in the books where they use macawaras.
Us?
So we had the sugar cane. I thought, what a great macawara. And so I used to bash my legs into the cane, just bang, bang. And I used the tires on the tractors.
Unreal.
For hitting as my bag. And I ended up making my own hand weights. I got steel and I used to weigh them. I welded those up. And so I made my own hand weights. And I had an old wheat bag that I went down the river, filled with sand, put a pulley on it. And so that was and then.
So when's your movie coming out, Shihan? How good is that? That is so inspiring. Thanks for sharing that, because that just kicks everyone else up in the ass, to be honest with you. And we got 24/7 gyms here, these days, and access second to none at a penance, $10 a week as such, and running. Oh wow! And again, let's not forget, kids, the heat up in your side of Australia is pretty full on. Yeah,
it is. It's like today's around about, it's not too bad. It's 32 degrees, but it's the humidity that really, it's the humidity that hits you in the end. But look, we're used to it. It's like when I travel down to Melbourne or whatever, the winter. You
guys are shocking. You guys are little puppy dogs.
How can I live down here?
All these strong Kyokushin fighters and Shihan's come into Melbourne, and the first thing that you guys say to us is, Jesus, way to turn the weather on. It's like, oh, come on, harden up. That's funny.
And it is like, but look, it was great, and
fantastic.
And I knew I never had, in the early days, I never had the technique but I knew that I had to be fit. I had to be super fit to really get through. And I remember I was a yellow belt when I fought my first Open in Sydney. And I remember, I don't know whether this is the thing John Taylor did, because he used to always do something to us, the Queens, we used to get up in about New South Wales, or Queensland was better than the Origin, And,
yes. The rivalry.
And I weighed in at Pitt Street, and he said, oh, you're half a kilo over. I went, really? He said, yeah, you have to go for a run. So I said, right. So I put my tracksuit on, my sand shoes, and off I went. And I didn't even think, I didn't know Sydney. And I turned the street and I'm going, I'm lost. I had no idea where I was. So I'm running for an hour and a half, running. Next thing you see these pile of guys come in, hey.
We're here.
And I'm asking people, can you tell me where the YMCA is, Pitt Street? Yeah, and they said, they looking at him, I don't know. No. Anyway, one of the guys found me, and I went back, and he said, oh, no, your weight was okay.
Oh, my God.
I said, thank you. So,
well, because there wouldn't have been those metric weights with, digital. It would have been the
slide. The slide, And you're always wondering, But look, the tournament was great. I was a yellow belt. I was nervous as anything. And I remember seeing Mickey Varka and Mickey Mainfield and all those guys, I saw them fight before, and I'm just going, gosh, what am I going to do? And I remember my first fight was against a Nidan. It was against a Nidan. And I remember Shihan just saying, he said, look, you're fit. He said, just don't go backwards. He said, you just do it, just punch and kick. And that's what I did. And I remember I kicked this poor bloke out of the ring. But I was so excited and adrenaline, I kept going. I just kept, and this is where Kaneko-san, it was his first come to Australia. But you could hear that, like as you're fighting, there's just no sort of sound. It's just, and I'm just, and I'm still pummeling this guy out of the ring, and I'm getting the foot on the floor and, into him. And next thing I remember Kaneko grabbed him by the dogie and just he flung me back,
Mm.
and he had a smile on his face because he thought, oh, it's good spirit, you know.
Right.
And but they gave me a bit of a warning and
Oh,
no
yeah,
idea.
yeah.
But,
Good one.
So,
Oh, that's great. Fascinating.
yeah.
You know, you had some, and listeners, it's something special here that Shihan was just pre-jumping on. While I've got the chance in the window here, can you, and I'm sure there'll be many listeners that like to see what you're about to show. Can you just start showing some of those memorable things you had and just have a quick chat about, you know, each one of them and just bring up some of them? That'd be fantastic.
Yeah. Look, there's
whatever way you want, that's fine.
Yeah. Look, at the ones I do have is certainly you got the 1982 program, and that was the one in Geelong.
Okay.
This was Geelong, and this was when Dolph fought in this one, Dolph Lundgren.
Wow.
And that was 1982. And actually, I didn't compete in that one because a week before I broke my wrist.
Oh.
I snapped it. Yeah. So I went down. I had it.
Why'd you do that?
Yeah. I was always for injuries. I was terrible for injuries.
Really?
You know. Yeah. Like even just going back to 1979, I fought Mickey Mainfield for the semis. And we went to extension, and I remember he coming over, and he actually he snapped my chest.
Oh,
yeah.
Shit!
So I was out for about 6 months of training, but just going on. That's 1982.
How cool!
Yeah, and in here you can see. Let me see, heavyweights. This was how many. Let me see. So you had the lightweights. There was Mickey Mainfield won that year. I had everyone written down.
Oh, wow.
Who won?
Look at that.
Like so. Middleweight
Proper
was Peter Collis.
Awesome.
And Graham Geary was second. Let me see. There was
good.
The heavyweights. You had Sean Richie Saunders was fighting. And then you had Dolph Lundgren. And there it is here.
Wow. Yep.
Dolph Lundgren.
How good.
Yeah. And Big Wayne Smith and
1982. I was born, Shihan, in 1981.
Oh. Wow.
Fascinating. Yeah. That's special.
Like 80 was Gold Coast. I got disqualified.
Oh, okay.
I knocked a guy out with a spinning kick, and Shihan Bobby-Low was refereeing.
Wow.
And they went all the corners, and he looked, and they come up for a question.
What?
They said, oh, no, he spun, and they reckon I hit him with this.
Oh, Tetsui, like a Tetsui spinning Oroshi. Oh, God.
Yeah.
And did you?
No, honestly, I didn't, because afterwards we were filming.
Oh, wow.
And, we were filming, and even Shihan Bobby-Low, he apologized.
Oh,
he come up after. He said, I have to give you shikaku. I said, why? He said, because of the flags. And I was pretty disappointed. And I KO'd this guy in about 30 seconds, you know.
You're kidding.
And
oh man.
So he just fought me anyway. We saw in the film no, and we went back to adjudication. Can we get a change? They said no, it's already decision, blah blah blah.
Oh wow.
And then 81 was Gold Coast, and then 82 Geelong, and then of course then we had 83. This was amazing.
Here we go.
At the Opera House.
Oh wow, look at that poster. Yeah. Isn't that a beauty?
Yeah. And that's where Sosai
the
came
ultimate
out.
Challenge.
And,
yes.
Believe it or not, 82 is when I actually went. I said, I want to go back to Melbourne for 82, 83. I just want to train somewhere else.
I see.
And Shihan said, yeah, that'd be good. He said, go down. And so he contacted Shihan Emin.
Awesome.
And so I drove all the way down to Melbourne.
Shit. Let's stop for a second. Let's let everyone understand that. So give it to us at the kilometers and the hours. Because
3,000 kilometers in 2 days.
In 2 days. Oh my God. You just stopped to take a wee. That's about it.
Yeah, that was about it. Yeah. So I drove down and
wow.
So I thought, I better find somewhere to live and get a
Yeah.
job. And believe it or not, I got a job mechanicing in Dorcas Street, which is right behind Channel 7 Studios.
Yes.
And of course, those days, there was the last time I went back to Melbourne, I couldn't believe, the casino, and I'm just
South
going,
Melbourne.
you got to be kidding me.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so I worked there.
Nice.
And I remember getting Shihan's address, Emin's address, and I drove around, and Shihan was outside doing mostly on the footpath, and I've just gone, oh, there's Shihan, because he's the pipe in the mouth.
Yeah. Great.
He's chewing on his pipe,
Yes.
And I went, well, Shihan, introduced, oh yeah, Shihan, Trevor Rang, and I said, I'd like to, come and train your dojo, and that's where I met your Shihan, Billy.
Oh, unreal. How good is that?
We trained in St Kilda. It was a little church hall on the
correct,
corner.
On the corner. Yes,
that's
correct.
it. Yeah. And of course, when I started training, I think everyone from Melbourne dojos came and welcomed me with kumite. And I remember the Andrew sisters. There was Andrew Russo, Andrew Sedalis, and there was so many more, and they all this night they turned up for spear. They said, "Oh, there's a Queenslander here."
The cane toad.
The cane toad turned up, and thank you very much, guys. But it was great, a great experience, with Shihan, Billy, and I remember there was an old room to the back, and there was a bag hanging up, but this room, you hit the bag and you're choking on dust, and Shihan, and even with the shade, hada.
Oh, that's special. That is, thank you for sharing that. That is fantastic, because I've heard all these stories, obviously from the same voices. I'm very close with Hamshi, Emin, and Billy, obviously. And you hear these stories, but to hear it from another perspective like that, that's fantastic.
Yeah.
And so I was going to ask you, if you don't mind, at that phase in your life, again, driving down Big Smoke and so passionate and enthusiastic, and the dedication, as you can all hear, second to none. How were you were you a Shodan at that stage? Meaning, where was your chapter in that side of where you were?
I was a second Q, brown belt.
Okay, so listen. Okay, so the brown belt is one of the most feared levels, because they're so.
I come up, and it's funny. I was thinking, okay, when I go into a tournament, I'm a brown belt, but if I beat a black belt, but I said, and I used to think, if a black belt beat me, then it's not so bad. I'm only a brown belt. And that was my thinking, sort of how I thought things. But in saying that, Shihan Eddie gave me a lot of challenges. I remember there was a Shodan grading out at Shihan Colliver's out Essendon Way.
Yes, correct.
I remember.
Yes.
And so we went out, and it was just before the 1983, just before the Sydney one, and Shihan said, "You go out. You must spar every fight as well to get ready."
Right.
And then he said, "No, you can do 50-man kumite." And I was going, okay. So that was the first time I did a 50-man kumite, and that was it was good. But I was young, I was fit,
Sure.
And
but the surprises of Shihan.
Bring it on, like saying, "Oh, thank you, Shihan, for that." I appreciate that.
Oh, that's cool.
But look, fighting in front of Sosai for the first time, 83, it was great. And I remember my first fight, and the 30-second mark, boom, I hit this guy, Moshigiri, and knocked him out. And I remember I looked up, and Sosai's looking over the side, and he's, very good, Sam, very good.
That's special.
That's great, And then,
special.
And I fought through, and it was just before I was supposed to fight Shihan Jimmy for the semis.
Right.
And the fight before, you wouldn't believe it, I hit this guy, won the fight.
Yes.
But I broke my foot on an elbow. So off I went to hospital. But the next day, we were staying at the Wentworth in Sydney.
Nice.
And I'm on crutches, waiting for the lift.
Awesome.
And I'm head down. It'll be able. The lip sort of dropped a bit. I'm pretty disappointed. Next thing, the lift's open. He's Sosai.
Oh my!
And he's gone, oh, and he moves the guys aside, and I hobble in, and he speaks very good English.
Yes, I've heard.
And I said one day, I said, Sosai, thank you for coming. And I said, one day I'll go to Japan and train. And I had the opportunity in 1984.
Wow.
When not in 84, but in 85 I got there, but 84, which is this one.
Yes. How good are these?
And that was fought out at Honbu, at when the Olympic Games was. Kyokushin, the State Sports Centre, Honbu, New South Wales.
Wow.
So Kyokushin was the first ones to use that facility.
Yeah, it would have been brand new as such.
Yeah. We were catching taxis, and the taxis had no idea where this sports arena at Honbu was.
Well, it's probably it's about 25 k's out of the CBD of Sydney, and in the early 80s, 25 k's out of Sydney CBD in a cab is
along. But it was over 2 days. It was a great time. Big number. Fantastic. There was 110 in competitors in lightweight, and there was fighters from New Zealand was there, Canada, Japan, and that's where there was. I've had to fight four rounds on the Saturday and 4 rounds on the Sunday, and I fought. This is a Japanese here. He was an Uchi Deschi, and he was he came second in the All Japans.
Oh wow! Okay, right.
So Suka Ashimoto.
Okay.
And I found, and so we fought in the semi-finals.
Right.
And of course, those days was 3 minutes. Everything was 3 minutes. 3 minutes.
Us.
And so we fought 3 minutes. Then we did 3 extensions, and it was still hikiwaki. And they just said, "You'll keep fighting." So we did 5 extensions, and I don't know where I pulled it from. 5 extensions, and there was just our gears were covered in blood. We're so exhausted, just thumping, and it would have been 15 seconds before the end of the extension, and I punched him out of the ring, and I was exhausted. And I thought, I've got to get my breath. I've got to do something different,
Right. Yes.
And I remember walking all the way around the ring, and they were going in here, and I just wanted to get that little bit of breath, like so. And I remember we come back to center, and I took one extra step back. I took one extra step back from the thing, and I thought all I wanted to do is let him take one step.
Okay. And
it worked. He took one step, and I just let loose with a washigiri. And I hit him right on the side of the neck, and it was enough to. He went halfway down.
He buckled,
and he buckled and come up, but I got enough. I got 2 flags.
Oh, isn't that a special feeling? I can hear the whistles. I could hear the whistles with the judges going beep.
Just like so. And I looked, and all I was thinking, we were exhausted. And
I'm exhausted hearing it.
I remember we just walked off. We're carrying each other, and we have stayed the best of friends.
How special is that? And, wow.
And from there,
that would have been an absolute classic.
I had to fight Brad Madam in the finals.
Oh, bullshit. Jesus.
And I was out the back. My legs were just black and blue.
Yes.
And I remember Ashimoto come over. He had ice. He was helping me. He was trying to get me to stand. They were locked out. They were just. I couldn't move. And then what happened? I thought I had an hour or half hour to try and get moving. And then the guys in the middleweights, he pulled out, so there was no fight.
No fight.
And in the semis, and same with the heavyweights, they were going to go. So that means I had to come straight back on. And Brad had a bye, which he was fresh.
Happy days.
And I'm thinking, I'm not going to do this, And I said, just pick me up. And they'll pick me up. and I said, get me walking.
Yes.
I remember I was walking, and they called my name. They called it twice, and I end up trotting out. I knew I had to run. Or else I'd just fall over. And I bowed on, and I kept bouncing. Even when I was bowing on, I was bouncing.
Yeah, of course.
And I thought, see, Brad was my senpai too. And
right.
I thought, this is going to be difficult, but no, I will give him a true fight.
Okay.
And he knew my legs were shot,
mm-hmm.
and I kept bouncing, I kept moving, and I ended up getting him on the back foot, hitting, and it was probably about the 2.5 minute mark, and he just timed it perfectly, just bang in the legs, and they just went stiff, and I remember just falling.
Like a tree.
I just bang, I went, you know. And
how tough.
I rolled over, and they were gonna pick me up. I said, no. I said, just give me a little time here. Yeah, let me enjoy the time on the mat a bit longer, you know.
Yeah.
And they rolled me over, they picked me up, but from there, I was quite amazed. There was a guy called Steve Zantiotis from the Gold Coast, and he was a barrister. And I think Shihan Trevor Field mentioned this, where they started funding guys to travel, you know, to train. And
Shihan, can you just push your microphone a little bit?
Sorry, mate.
That's all right. No. I didn't want to stop you while you're going. Keep going. This is amazing. Keep going.
And in 1985, then there was the first South Pacific Championships in Hawaii, and I was training for this, and I know Brad Madden was going, Michael Young, myself, Shihan Billy was going. He was picked in the Australian team. I forget some of the others. Might have been Keith Bosler, guys like so. And next thing, Shihan Trevor calls. He said, you can't go to Hawaii. I said, why? He said, you're going to Japan. I said, what? Tournament in Japan?
Yeah.
He goes, no. He said, you've been sponsored to go and train. I said, you're kidding me. He said, no. And end of 84, 85. And this was actually.
Wow. So this gentleman sponsored you as such?
He sponsored me. He was, his name was Steve Zantiotis. And he was a barrister on the Gold Coast, and he was more or less advisor and everything of Kyokushin.
What a champion!
Yeah, wow. And amazing. And I
can't wait to hear this. How did this? Yeah. Here we go. Hang on to your seats, here, listeners. Oh shit! I think this will be our first 3-hour podcast. This is so good. No, this is special, Shihan. I got to be honest with you. This is fantastic.
Because. In those days, you could only fly out of Sydney, or nothing from Brisbane. So, also one of my sponsors was in those days was Ansett Airlines, and of course that's now all. But so they flew me down to Sydney, and I stayed at Brad Hanson's house, and he dropped me off the airport. And of course this was the first time I've ever been international. So I was a kid from the country, and I was pretty green. Anyway, so got on the plane, thank goodness, the right plane.
Yes.
And off we went. New York. Yeah. And I flew into, starts with N, out of Tokyo.
Narita.
That's it, Narita Airport. And so I got on a bus. No, on a train. So I caught a train and into Tokyo Station. I was 4 hours. I got lost. I couldn't find the exit of Tokyo Station. I kept coming, and I saw the exit sign, and I kept walking, and I could see where I wanted to go. There's the taxis down there. And I'm going,
that's amazing.
Yeah, and of course, there wasn't much English speaking Japanese in 1985, and I'm getting frustrated. Anyway, I end up getting out after 4 hours, I found my way out and asking. And anyway, and I found up someone who could speak English, and they showed me the right exit and so forth, you know.
Righto.
And then I caught a taxi, and I said, Ikebukuro.
Us.
And that's what he said, Ikebukuro. And I then showed him the address, you know.
Yes.
So off we went to Ikebukuro. And because I wasn't a live-in student, I was an outsider. It was Kimi Roiken I stayed at.
Okay.
And of course that was pretty exciting. It was a room by about 1 meter by about 2 meters long, you know, and there was a shelf. And the bed was this thing about this wide, and I ended up putting my suitcase on the end of the bed so my legs would rest. It was a little old rice pillow, and of course it was a communal bath and everything like so.
All right.
But I was excited. Now I was there, and I had the address for Ikebukuro, you know, for Honbu, and off I went. And went through the park and everything like so. And I'm looking, I'm going,
where is this joint?
And I'm looking for this massive big like shrine of a Honbu, you know. Where's this Honbu? Yeah, the gate and everything there.
Yes.
It's
just a big building.
Where is this place? You know? Yeah. And I ended up like Japanese, and I said, Kyokushin. And he pointed up this little alley, and he pointed up, and he was the Kanku.
The big sign.
I could see karate, you know.
Wow.
Beauty. And off I went in there. And so, yeah, I walked in. There was the Uchi Deschis to the side. You walk in, and then there was the where the secretaries were. And that was my first meeting with Vera Shishinoi. Which wasn't Shishinoi then. They weren't married.
Of course.
And so she helped me, and
she had the English speaking.
Yeah. And then she took me to a photograph place. Yeah, it was all Japanese, and took the photos. And anyway, so the next day I couldn't wait. I was there early and went in for the Uchi Deschis. They were training, went in, and I was going to train with them. So you walk in, and you go down the stairs. And there's a change area. There's a massive big sandbag, you know, this big old thing, and weights. And I could hear this donk, donk, donk. And I walked down. He's Shishinoi Shihan.
Oh, wow.
And he's hitting this anvil. There's an anvil. And he's hitting this anvil like so. Then he's on the sandbag. Boom, and this big sandbag swinging. And I put my dogi on with my little brown belt, and I'm looking. And I'm thinking, I thought all these Japanese were tiny.
Yeah. Out of all of them, Shishinoi.
Yeah. So I said to him, I hold the bag. And he couldn't understand English, and I couldn't understand Japanese. And he just goes, oh, kumite. And I've gone,
no, mate.
and I think his fear just went into my face. And I remember Shihan Trevor saying, whenever you get asked to do kumite, never say no.
Oh,
and I've just gone,
roger that.
This little squeezy boys. Also off we went up, and there's Shishinoi and the Shishinoi up here. This little brown belt. And it was like, welcome to Honbu.
Yeah,
it was
just,
mate, it was just bang, bang. But like I enjoyed it. I got the crap kicked out of me and punched out of me. But it was great. And you couldn't believe it. I didn't know this. But one of the head instructors was Itamoto, which I fought in Australia. He walked up. I was down when I was registering in. He ran down, and he he was the instructor, and then he was telling everyone in Japanese. And
okay, good.
And then, then I'm going, thank you very much. He's fresh meat again, just like in Melbourne. And it was, but the training was just unbelievable. It was.
I don't even know where to start here. Just how special is that? So Shihan, thank you so much for sharing that. That is exactly why I started this program. Yeah. It is exactly why I started it. And for the listeners, if you haven't been on the edge of your seats, and I know I get 10 messages a week easily from these special people that you've mentioned, and they all would love to, you should ask, and you should, and I'm like, let's just let them talk, because I'm sure, so special. So Shihan, you're at Honbu, 1985. you know, you're brown belt, and I'm just summarizing what you've just put together here. You've been, you know, your mentor is Shihan Field. You've had a dabble with Shihan Emin here in Melbourne. You have successfully, you know, broken a couple of bones in some massive tournaments and got to that illustrious, you know, final stage. And what do you, when you get there, my thing is for you, were you in a mindset, and I don't mean to dive into like changing this, but your mindset in that time was what? Was it to just, because there's so many people that are going, I don't know what to expect, I'm getting bashed, I want to leave, it's 2 months, see you later. You know, you were there for a year, correct?
Yeah. Again, I broke my foot.
Oh shit.
Yeah, I broke my foot. The good thing was the other foot this time. So, you know, sort of learnt my lesson on one side, but not on the other side. And in saying that, every day Sosai would come down and talk. He would talk every lesson. Like I tried to do three sessions a day, early morning, lunchtime, and then in the evening. But in the end, it was taking his toll. And I remember where I was staying, I used to just, on the way home, there was a big ice machine, and I grabbed the bags of ice, put them in the big bath, and I just slide in to try and get the bruising, everything down, bruising, the soreness. But in the end, you understand why they do so much conditioning like that to the body, because in the end, the bruising would be coming hard. And that's where I found that after time, I wasn't bruising as much. My body was coming much stronger. In that mindset, as you just said, I never ever once wanted to give in. I wanted to improve. And I suppose in my mind, I knew I never had that ability. I was looking at, you know, like there was guys like Kuroshima. I'll just write some of the guys down that come in: Kurosawa, Sanpei, Masuda, Matsui. Those guys, they were coming they were coming into the Honbu, and they were on the Friday night. You had to be either 6 foot over a certain weight. So I'm close, you know, pretty well back on 6 foot, 180. So I'd go in there, and look, it was just hard. That was it. You know, they weren't there just to cut you in half. You learn to learn, but it was there as a building, you know. And
you know, one question I've got in this angle is, and to catch you on it, and I apologize if I keep cutting you off, but it you know, in that time of your training with those names on a Friday night in Honbu, in the thick of it, the training side, can you just recap something for me or answer it? Like, you know how we as in the fighting side of this style is a combination set. Let's go left, right, hook, get them. What were they? Was it workshop based, or was it one-on-one, or was it lining up 20 rounds, just work, just go? Or did someone stop and teach? So I'm just trying to tap into, if you could bring us into that element of what that teaching component did, and what did it do for you as well?
It was actually all three. Patrick.
How good.
There was, each instructor had different abilities. One was a good puncher, one was a mover, one were good kickers and moving, and so forth, like so, you know. There are times where you would have drills to cut angles, but everything was paid back straight away. There was no second or 2 seconds before you move and hit. It was just, you get hit, you hit back. And the angle slightly then there was sidewave movements, circle movements. There was other ones where they would work in combination on targets of punching, where to hit and over. There was other ones for high kicks, things like so, you know.
Gotcha now. So and it would have been a 2-hour session, I would assume.
2.5 hour.
So there's a lot to cover, a lot to cover within that in that time.
Sometimes there was a little bit of always a lot of junan, a lot of stretching, a lot of junan stretching. Sosai never liked to count in his Kion under 20.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so it was always 20 or 30, but through everything, bang, 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 bang. Wasn't much edukeko. And then the kumite, yes, was either working like with a group, just keep working around everyone.
Yes.
And then, but many times where I was tested, it was one-on-one, and it was just full juji kumite. So there was no hold back, and you just fight and fight and fight and fight.
Shit.
And
yeah.
There are times I remember there was a couple of knee downs I knocked down, and the instructor he would hit them because they got knocked down by a second cue, you know.
Yeah.
And
wow.
Yeah. And but in that it was it was just a lot of conditioning type of stuff, you know, just bunny hops with the stick over and back so, you know, and
again, in again, I mean to cut you off, but the bunny hops, the first thing I thought of, and when I've seen that footage of them jumping, the plyometric training, but legs, strong legs. Every Japanese fighter I fought, their legs. Hey, what do you got in there? You know, you're wearing a cricket pat. What's going? Yeah, really strong legs.
Yeah,
hey.
And that's where, like, as Sammy Greco called me, emu. I had strong body, but my legs like an emu. I could run like anything. and of course, at the camps we used to go, and that's where I got my name, was Emu.
Right.
Yeah, they said no one could catch me. I'd take off, you know, legs like an emu, skinny as anything.
Yeah.
But in saying that, I was conditioned enough mentally to take a lot of hits and defense and move, you know. Early days, my legs would just stay there and I'd get cracked out with the legs. I had a good hard head. I had lots of kicks in the head, but I could feel it a bit funny in the neck, but I never ever got knocked down, you know. The
saying, something in the water in Proserpine, There's something in the water there.
So, but look, mate,
how good.
It's just memories that
of course.
Yeah, they're just amazing memories, you know. And when I came back to Australia, then especially in '88 with the Commonwealth Championships, that was fantastic. You know, training guys like Sammy, the Andrews, you know, the Micah Young, you know, the Milos Jovanovic, those guys, you know, and then you know, England, New Zealand, Fiji, India, Canada. And it was the most, I remember Sam and I, we used to pair off. We paired off a lot because Sammy wanted to get more speed. And I remember Sammy saying, he said, you know, I've only been kicked in the head twice hard. And he said, and it's by both two bloody Queenslanders, Micah Young and Wayne Hinschen. He said, bloody like sticks, but he said, then you can't,
Right.
But, Sammy had amazing power. He was amazing athlete.
Yeah.
And I remember the first camp was at Narrabeen, north of Sydney. That's where the Olympic guys go and train. Had the rubber mat, you know, or the oval, like so. And we're doing 400-meter sprints.
Right.
And we took off, and I took off like a jackrabbit.
Yeah.
And I've gone, this is going to be easy. And we got about 100 meters from around on the straight, and I could hear these footsteps behind me, boom, 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 boom. And I looked over my shoulder, and here's Greco right on my bloody shoulder.
Yeah, right.
And I've gone, you got to be kidding me, this big bastard. You know? He's got it. And he was pushing me. He was screaming. I said, I catch you.
I'm going to eat you.
I'm going to give it to you. And I'm pushing you. And that's where we found our friendship. You know, we got together. Good. And I remember we're in the pool. We're both together. We're in the swimming pool out there doing water training.
Yes.
And I remember this football team come in. They're all pretty big blokes, you know. They come in and they see, you kung fu blokes get out of the pool.
Sure.
And so I stood up and I stood around. I was going to give these guys a mouthful.
Right.
And I turned around. And next thing you see them go, oh, no, it's okay. Then I turned and I realised Sam stood up. And I've gone, shit, I thought that was me.
How good, yeah.
And Big Sammy stood up, but look, in '88, it was a great tournament. I remember we went to, it was at Sydney Town Hall, and Sam and I walked up. We'd come by train and subway, and we walked up out of the subway. Well, there were just people lying down the street, just waiting, just piled up, and you had your green blazer on with Australia and Kyokushin, and I actually got tears in my eyes. I was just so emotional. I just gone, wow, all these people have come to see, and I'm thinking, here I am, a little old country bumpkin. So lived 20 k's in the bush, with the snakes and crocodiles, and and
proper.
All
within 10 years. You started, roughly in like that 70.
And just to what Kyokushin has done, it's just taken me around the world, and look, I came third, equal third with Shihan Jimmy in that tournament. And great tournament, and after that I had all the English guys come up here, team come up here and stay for
Nick DeCosta mentioned
for 2 weeks, and I remember Shihan Neil sitting on the plane, and he's looking out and he's shaking his head, he's going, how big is this country? How big is this place? And so, but we looked after one of my students, Kim Ross. He had holiday units down Early Beach, so that's where we put him all for free, and he had a 40-foot yacht, so we took him sailing, and the worst thing they did, like as you're saying with humidity and the sun up here, they're all lying out.
They would have got burnt
for the day. They looked like lobsters, mate. At the end of the day, they had the sunglasses on, so you got the white mark, like so, and we're laughing. They say, you guys going to burn? You're going to, no, we're good. And they're sticking the oil on, you could hear it. You can hear the meat, sizzling.
That is special stuff.
Yeah. And look, it was that. And we went, we took them down Mackay, and we, Michael Young had this little beach hut. It was just like a little lean-to, bloody old, made out of tree stumps and old corrugated iron on and so that's where we put them. They stayed there overnight, and we're staying there, we're going to train. Next thing, we heard this commotion, and there was yelling and screaming, and Mick and I walked out. Well, here's 5 pommies in the corner, they're all and there's a moth flying around. And there's a bloody moth flying because but
the moths in Queensland are about the size of my phone.
All these world champions.
Now
we know how to beat them.
That's very good.
It was great, and we learned a lot. We trained with those guys who are up here, and then in '89, I had no injuries. So I was great. I was training hard, and I really got my mindset together. I went back to driving down to Mackay a lot, and just a lot of kumite, just back to how I remember how dojo Honbu was, with a lot of physical stuff, and I was. Went back to my roots in the shed where, tying tires around, running up the hills and things like so, and down the rivers, putting tires on and running through the sand and so forth. And in that year, in my mind, I said, no one's going to beat me. I don't care what they do, no one's going to beat me. And that's where I won the Australian Championships, and I've always been the bridesmaid, second, third, second. And it was up here. It was always, and plus injuries, those injuries for fighting for 2 days. But I went down, no injuries, strong.
Yep. Next level. That's it. And then well done.
And then 1990, again, there was a lot of tournaments. There was the Trans-Tasman, you know, every 2 years, you know, Australia versus New Zealand. There was one's what they call the battle. Big tournaments where, you know, Victoria, New South Wales, Queensland, South Australia, whatever, you know, and there was ones like, so we used to have a lot of big tournaments, you know, not just your state ones, but there was, you know, ones like, say, the battle and international and then of course the nationals. And so you're always, I suppose, conditioned, you know, in that fighting way. And I feel disappointed how Kyokushin's gone after 95, after Sosai died. And I'll ring up Shihan Jimmy and I still talk to the old guys. And my goal is to try and, I want to get one big tournament. And I know there's all fractions, okay, this and that, but we all think we all got that, the kanji here, okay? We all got that passion. And I feel that's why we were so strong, because it was just so many, and this tournament and that tournament, you know, and we had the competition. And I feel sad for the younger fighters, you know. I know you got, you know, when you're coming through, it was still a big group. You know, I saw you fight, you know, and I remember Guy being a junior, and I'm watching you on the side, and I'm learning things. I'm watching then as an instructor, and I said, Guy, come here. I said, what's this guy? I don't know him. And I remember you walking on. I'm saying to the guy, I said, look at the guy. Man, he's got big forearms, you know. And I said, he's a strong puncher, that guy, you know, picking things up. And I said, you will fight him one day. You know, I said, you will fight this guy one day. I know it, you know. And I said, we will have to train you. And I said, that's your level you have to go to.
Oh, that's fascinating.
You know? So,
well, you know, you've raised a big thing there that, you know, we're all so passionate about, and I appreciate your words there, but we're also passionate about, you know, I mean, have a moment, and we're going pretty deep and meaningful here, but why not, right? So, you know, have a moment here of me hearing all these amazing stories, not just now via Shihan Billy when I was coming through, and then, you know, obviously what had occurred, and then everyone having to put their energy as such away from the political angle and just moving forward. So, you know, we all went to Japan, and we all, as such, you know, in the respected different groups. So everyone was starting to become better, meaning there were more opportunities, because the opportunities I got to compete in a world tournament were because of the organization that we're a part of. You know, you guys all came through the one, so there was only going to be a very, very, you know, tight group, because it was all there. So I try to see the positive in all things, and the positive of it is the more opportunity has arisen from this, you know. And slowly, the benefit that I've received via Shihan Billy is that he was friends with many that were in those different organizations. So I was very fortunate to not be secluded or only allowed to compete in one. So my reasoning of getting better and my passion for being under Shihan was to represent him to my utmost in against Shin Kyokushin, against Aka, against IK, whoever it was. And then slowly there were certain tournaments where there were certain individuals, those top fighters were starting to find their way into a certain tournament. Reason being why we go now, why my students and I go now to the nationals in Sydney, the Aka nationals. I wanted to keep the heritage / the history of that tournament is so beneficial to my upbringing, so that I wanted my students to respect it and appreciate it now. That's what it is. That's where it's at. And let's just get, you know, that one focus and attention. So, you know, the opportunities have come up, you know, and you mentioning Guy Thrupp, who was, you know, one of your students, and in segue here, let's just move a little bit towards that teaching side of all that knowledge that you've had, and then you're developing, and the community now that you have got behind you because of the achievements and success that you brought, you know, other than rugby or cricket, you know, or whichever other sport was up there. You know, so your students as such had come through. And then in that respect, and to give you the kudos, I remember Shihan Billy And again, I had not been aware of you into this depth because we were just so tunnel visioned in fighting. And in 2011, when we got to fight, your student, Shihan Billy, had mentioned your capabilities to me and said, look, this is the type of fighter Shihan Wayne is. And if this is his student, be cautious of these things. And, you know, it was an almighty bout. It was fantastic.
It's funny because when I first saw you fight in Sydney, the Shihan Jimmy's tournament, I think you fought Graham Rose in the finals. I think, right? And Guy was only he fought as a colt or a junior,
right?
And I said, come with me and I said, you are the guys. I said, you need to watch these guys because I said they're young, they're up and coming, you know. But I said one day you will fight Patrick. I know you will, you know. And he did. He had that opportunity. I think he fought you twice, and you bloody beat him twice, you mum. So.
But I mean that time for me was beast mode, as I called it. I loved hearing how you had gone into that mindset in '89, and I had come through the losses and the losses, the second or the third, and then it was time to go, right, enough's enough. And then you win a national, and then you want to, you know, I've got my coach Shihan Billy who won 2 or 3, and he's like, one? Who wants one?
Yeah.
Who are you? Why do you want one for? And I'm like, right, let's get another one. And then that way, so special moments indeed. You're teaching angle, Shihan, you know, you with so much knowledge and in sharing so much already on this platform, you know, how did you see that transition and that angle towards, you know, what you were pursuing, because you had been through that era of and been to Japan and seen the training of being successful in a fighting style. And then the way it was transitioning after Sosai Passing or in the 2000s, as I put it, how were you accommodating to it?
Look, my last tournament was 1990. That was my last tournament, and that was a Trans-Tasman in New Zealand. Okay, and after that tournament, I knew that was it. In my mind, I said, I remember talking to Shihan, Trevor, on the way home. I said, Shihan, you know, I've done 11 or 12 years, and I could feel my body. I'd already had operations on my knees, and I said I could feel it wasn't the passion, but it was my body was telling me I wasn't strong enough anymore, you know. And I, like, even when I won the championships in '89, there were many young fighters coming through, and I said, another year or two, I'm not going to be able to contain that punishment, you know. And he said, mate, what else do you need to do? You know, you've represented Australia for 7 years. You've done this, you've done that. He said, you're a country boy from a town of 3,000 people. I said, what else? You know? And I said, for 12 months, I was lost. I was still training.
Yes.
And then I still had younger students, but I felt lost for 12 months. And I in 91, I went down to the tournament in Sydney, but I was walking around sort of, what am I doing? What am I going to do? What am I going to do? You know?
Right.
And then I had the opportunity. Shihan was, he was the Australian coach. And then they asked me to go on to the board of the AKKA, which I did. And then they said, would you be assistant coach?
Beautiful. And
then that gave me another that passion started to come back in and go in that. And then so we used to go down to west of Sydney, up in the Blue Mountains there, Yarramundi in the Blue Mountains, and that's where the squad team would meet. Wow. And so my teaching was all about speed, fitness, and movement. Just move, hit, and I know you find what I found, the Japanese fighters use a lot of core. They're big buttocks, the big legs, their strength come from the core. And I remember a Japanese and even the English guys saying, you Australians hit so hard. You hit so hard, you know. And so what I try to put in perspective for those fighters is you had the distance, you had the length, okay, but don't just use what you have here. You use this and use your hara, use your tendon, like the Japanese fighters do. You know, there's strength. Everything is from the center, from the core, and that's where my training started to evolve with a little more the Japanese way, but moving and still that distance. Just keep the mei-hai. You know, when the Japanese fighter comes in, you just got to keep that distance so you're still able to strike and hit. Sure. But I said also, your target, your technique is as important as anything else. I said you can have the strength, the speed, but you don't waste a single solitary strike that you do. Everything you hit, it has got to be on that target. You know,
right? Yes.
And that's where I push my training in my instruction. You know, into that way. Yeah, and I think training with so many people, you know, from Shihan Trevor, from Shihan Eddie, from even Billy, you know, we used to go in together, you know, and I remember he used to put gloves on and do boxing, you know, with me to work my defense, you know, and as you can see, it's still not working. I had a few stitches here the other night.
Yeah, shit.
We did a bit of bare knuckle stuff and whoops. Big tall guy clacked me in the head a couple of times, but you know, so.
still going. Wow.
Yeah, but in that, you know, like I've got, when we're instructing, Shihan and I, after our last session in the afternoon, we used to go back to our unit, you know, and we used to sit there to midnight. We used to write everyone's name and we'd put their weak points and strong points and what we can do and you know, and so forth, what they needed to do. And I still have all that. It's all recorded in my pieces of paper. It's just like, you know, I just, I still got my white belt from I started, my blue belt, my yellow belt, my green, my brown.
That's unreal.
And my gi from when I won the tournament, my fighting gi is wrapped up in plastic, still with the bloodstains in it, you know. So it's, you know.
Yeah, it's special stuff.
It's special stuff. You know, and photos of Sosai and his signature and, you know, but look, as I said, when Sosai passed away, Australia was very strong, you know, with the way the AKKO was set up, with their team and squad teams, and they had, you know, you had two squad teams, you know, so some would go here, some would go there, and financing, and then probably it's even when 1994 when Sosai passed away, you could see 93, 94, just things were starting. There were little waves happening around the world, you know.
Sure.
And I remember Shihan ringing, he said, the old man's gone.
Oh, wow.
And I said, what, your dad? He said, no, Sosai. He said, you know. And he said, no. I said, what? He said, yeah. And I remember we flew over for his funeral.
Oh, the ACCA board went, didn't they? Yeah.
And I remember coming out after funeral, and even then you could see different groups of the Japanese branch chiefs. You had this group here, that group there, this group here, you know.
Yeah, they were just starting to do their thing.
Yeah, who was going to be the power?
And while everyone's there, you know, let's just say good day to certain people.
Come here. And I remember walking out from the shrine, and the road went down over a hill. Well, it was just lined up. It was just thousands and thousands of people to come in and pay their respect to Sosai.
Wow.
And I took my dogi, And that night, everyone else went out to the Metropolitan for tea and party. And they said, "Are you coming for a few?" And I said, "No." Sosai wouldn't want that.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
So I said, they said, "You
Well,
got to be kidding me."
Yeah.
I said, "No, that's what Sosai would have wanted." So I went off to the Honbu, and I remember, I can't remember his name. There was a 6-dan, an older chap taking the class with a Shodan.
Really? Yeah.
And there was 2 big Russian guys. There was only 5 of us there training. And
wow.
And we trained like demons. We just said, let's train like demons, or Sosai would have wanted,
Isn't
And
that unreal?
we did kumite, we did everything,
All the
and
good stuff.
I come back with a couple of split up here from the big Russian guy, but it was great. And then we all walked in to the Metropolitan,
Right.
and as a group, this guy and it just felt it, and we talked. This was so yeah, and that was a special feeling.
Yeah,
it was a special feeling. That's how I wanted to say.
Yep.
Goodbye to Sosai.
Us. Yeah.
That's how I wanted to train hard. Said righto.
If you haven't heard, Sensei Nicholas Pettis had the same feeling as you. He mentioned exactly that. That just got into my heart. Then he said, "No. What's everyone doing now? Like afterwards? What? No. We should all be, let's all train, or let's all do what he would want in that manner." And I could imagine the emotion, and I could imagine, and more so for you, just gesturing. You had a close connection. A lot of people have a connection, that you had more of a close connection, and it meant so much to you in that part of your life.
Yeah.
To spend almost a year with Sosai, and where it's taken you, like you said, and there you have it. Thanks for sharing that too. Yeah.
No, it's look, we know Kyokushin in some ways will never be the same without Sosai, but we all got Sosai's picture in our dojo. We all bow to Sosai. Okay. Indeed. And I know it's been over 20 years, since she's been gone, but and in saying that, has Kyokushin changed in the fighting? Yes, because compared when I was fighting and to where you were a younger fighter coming up, things were faster. You guys were faster than we were. Your movement, your hitting, and even now today, you can see the different techniques. Look, I remember being there at the World Championships when I saw Adamita DaCosta throw the flip kick. I was there when Tsukamoto beat Suzuki. Yes. Suzuki had Tsukamoto beat.
Yes.
And
he did the spin.
And he did a Maigiri.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, in the first one. Yep.
Yeah. It was it was we thought Suzuki, and he was Tsukamoto was beat with thigh kicks, and he did the same thing. He walked out, he walked back, and he stepped just behind the line. And I remember Micah Young and I were sitting there, and we've gone, "Whoa, what's happening here?" And Zuki moved in, and he does that with the toes, with the Maigiri, just straight in. He just hit him. He just went whack, and Zuki just went boom, straight down.
Nice, yeah.
And we said, the referees never put out a flag, because we said, "Oh, the money must have been on Suzuki." Next thing, then a flag went out, and then
good one.
But look, Kyokushin, Sosai always said Kyokushin will always involve. He said, "What can you do for Kyokushin? How can you improve in Kyokushin?" Right. And that was one of his sayings. You as a younger fighter, younger person, what can you help in Kyokushin improve?
Yeah, right.
That's what it was. Everything was about fighting and looking. And even today, when I train over Japan, it's called the Brazilian kick. Mm-hmm. The Japanese say, "Okay, we do Brazilian kick." So that come from Adamita Costa, and that's where that's where Kyokushin keeps evolving and progressing and moving, progressing forward, and again, and as you say, if we can never get a one big group again, then we do need to go to all the different groups to complete, and so.
Yeah, no, well, okay. Let's, thank you so much. I mean, It's been an amazing chat, Shihan. Thank you so much for that. And I mean, I'm not trying to cut it short because it's cool, but you've shared so much, and I think you need a bit of a breather. And because it and I to the listeners, and more so to the Shians and senseis in the era of Shihan Wayne. I've been trying to get Shihan Wayne for months, and in respect of what his day-to-day is as well. So we've been in contact a fair bit, and you know, this time was due. And as you can all see, excuse me, and respectfully, you brought up some really, really cool highlights. And again, I really appreciate that. That's exactly what the show is for all of us, younger generation, to keep that flame alive for you guys, and to also acknowledge, you know, yep, the times have changed, but we all still hold the spirit of all you guys. And without that, we'd be in deep shit. And for me to do this, whether it gets 500 viewers or 1,000 or in the next 10 years, you know, you've shared a lot. And you know, congratulations to you on your journey. And again, this isn't a thanks for your chat and we won't talk to you ever again. I'm sure we could do another chat, and I hope that the listeners out there appreciated, you know, and respected the I guess sharing of what Shihan just did for us then. And you know, congratulations, well done.
Thank you, Patrick. And look, again, it's a journey. It's a lifetime journey, you know. And I still have the passion, as you can see. I'll still get in there, and mix it up a bit, you know. And you know, my body can't do things like it used to, you know. It's I've had both knees operated on and this and that, but it's trying to put my passion out there.
Yes.
If something that I'm teaching, if someone can take away, well,
indeed,
that's what it's about. You know?
Indeed. Yeah. Such a pleasure talking to you. Thank you for your time. To all the listeners, that was an absolute beauty. And please, for the listeners, put your comments in the posts of whatever happens here. It continues to generate. It allows it more to be seen. And the impressions that the Kyokushin Shuffle is getting on YouTube is unbelievable. We're in the hundreds of thousands. So, you know, if you continue to do that, we continue to keep it going. So thank you, Shihan Wayne. Have a great day. And
will do, Patrick.
We really
thank you very much. All the best. I'm glad you're back to training.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, mate.